This afternoon, the Chancellor delivered what was expected to be the last budget before the UK leaves the European Union. Caroline Jeune and James Dolan have been considering the possible impact on taxpayers, and Philip Hammond's assurance that the UK is open for business. Caroline, it was a budget where major announcements in respect of personal tax were relatively thin on the ground, but the big news was that entrepreneurs' relief is to remain.
Which is great news given the speculation there has been. However, he did announce a couple of changes in relation to entrepreneurs' relief that were worth flagging. Firstly, to currently qualify, you have to hold the asset in question for just 12 months. Going forwards, with effect from 2020, that's likely to be extended to 2 years. So a significant increase, and will stop people acquiring shares in a company when they know a sale is imminent. Secondly, there was a change to what the 5% holding of a company actually means. So therefore, if anyone is in the process of currently selling their business, they should look into that and take further advice to make sure they still qualify.
And a couple of changes in respect of property that caught your eye.
That's right. So there has been a consultation announced in relation to imposing a surcharge on non-residents buying UK residential property. That's likely to be a 1% surcharge, and I think is designed to prevent the continuing investment in the UK by non-residents. The other change is in relation to the principal private residence relief. So where someone is selling the house that they've lived in, currently that gain is exempt, and it will be so even if they've moved out of the property 18 months before the sale actually goes through. Going forwards, again they're consulting on it, but it's likely to be reduced from 18 months to 9 months, which will certainly lead to some properties being exposed to capital gains tax where the property market is particularly slow.
Now, James, on the corporate side, the Chancellor was very keen to stress the UK is open for business. You've had a little bit of time to look at the detail. What's your view on that statement based on what was in the budget book?
Right, and the first piece of good news is that the Chancellor confirmed that the headline rate of corporation tax will reduce to 17% effective 1st of April 2020. Now, he didn't explicitly state that in his speech, but it can be found in the budget working papers. And why is that important? Well, the headline rate is encouraging for groups to invest in the UK, and it also benefits UK-based groups. The UK government want to have the lowest corporation tax rate in the G20, and 17% will allow them to do that. The biggest announcement today was the digital services tax. So this is a 2% tax on revenues of certain digital companies. So those that are search engines, online marketplaces, or social media platforms. These rules have been talked about across the EU, but no consensus has been reached. And here the Chancellor has gone it alone and is looking to introduce them in the UK. Now, they probably only apply to the very largest of groups, so those with over 500 million of global turnover, or those with 25 million of sales relating to UK users. But the reality is that they may also apply to other groups, and we won't know this until we see the legislation. But I do think the Chancellor will introduce these from 1st of April 2020. In terms of other measures, on the one hand, the Chancellor introduced some incentives to encourage investment into the UK, and all of that is good for the UK as a place for business. In particular, he reintroduced amortisation for goodwill on certain intangibles. That will encourage groups to hold intellectual property in the UK. And he also reintroduced buildings allowances, which will encourage investment in infrastructure. On the other hand, he tightened anti-avoidance rules, in particular for groups that look to hold intangibles in low-tax jurisdictions.
And on the subject of anti-avoidance, we thought IR35, so-called, would feature. It did.
It did, and these rules are for off-payroll workers. Currently, they only apply to the public sector. The Chancellor is now going to extend that to the private sector for large and medium groups. This is really important for all companies trading in the UK. They're going to now need to review their current arrangements with independent contractors through personal service companies and evaluate the application of these rules.
Now, we thought it was the last budget before the UK leave the EU. I think it's fair to say the door has at least been left ajar for there to be a spring budget, Caroline.
I think that was made absolutely clear by the Chancellor because he flagged it specifically. So very much the case.
Please look for a comprehensive budget summary on our website. Thank you to James and Caroline, and thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.